Welcome to Combos from the Couch by LifeStance Health, where leading mental health professionals help guide you on your journey to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Combos from the Couch. I'm Nicolette Lianza, and joining me today is therapist Erin Pesca, and we'll be talking about body dysmorphia in men. So, hey, Erin, great to have you on. Can
Me
you
too.
share with us a little bit about your own experience with body dysmorphia?
Yeah, this is a topic that I'm fairly passionate about. It's something that I've struggled with myself since about high school, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more as we go through this discussion today. But that's one of the things that brought me into the field in the first place. Just my own mental health journey, and body dysmorphia being just one part of that entire journey. Just wanting to work with those that are experiencing similar things, with similar thoughts, similar feelings, similar emotions. And that's ultimately what brought me into the field.
Yeah, wonderful. Can definitely see that you're very passionate about this, that it was something you were navigating and that you want to help others guide them through it as well. So appreciate
Still
that.
do
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's a good point. As we talk more about it, I'm sure it's just not a defining ending point. That's it. You no longer struggle with it. It could probably be triggered too. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that. So actually, let's start. How would you define body dysmorphia, and what does it typically look like in clients?
So I guess the clear definition would be it's a condition where a person is excessively preoccupied with their perceived flaws in their appearance,
Mhm.
flaws that are either minor or not observable to other people. As we're talking more about body dysmorphia in those identifying as male, the distinguishing features that I would say, and as like you mentioned earlier, an obsessive focus on muscle size or weakness. So a lot of emphasis on the size of the muscle, the curvature of the muscle, the aesthetically pleasing look of the muscle,
Mm.
as well as I would say preoccupation with symmetry and proportions. So are my shoulders equal to my arms? Is my chest
Mhm.
equal to kind of that V taper that a lot of bodybuilders are going for in the gym? And then I think it even goes beyond musculature as well. Perceived flaws in our facial features. So the size of our nose, our jawline, is our Adam's apple prominent enough? So all of these things combined together create a situation where it can cause a lot of clinically significant distress in those that are dealing with body dysmorphia.
Got you. So, what are the most common triggers or thought patterns with body dysmorphia?
I'd say the biggest trigger would be social media. There's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
social media influencers that are out there,
Good
and
point. Yeah.
it's really hard to go on to Instagram, TikTok, Facebook without seeing some social media influencer with a six pack of abdominals and bulging muscles, and they're getting tens of thousands of likes on their pages. A lot of attention from a lot of different people. So I would say that would be the main trigger that I've seen. I've also seen in myself and then other clients milestones in their development. So people aging, people that are in their 40s look different than they did in their 20s. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
distress around that. Life events is another big one that I've seen a lot of. So men that I'm providing therapy to that are getting out of long-term relationships, they're getting divorced, they're
I see.
going through breakups with their significant other. So now they're back into the dating pool and they're really taking a hard look at themselves. But I'm also seeing guys that are high level and higher at high levels in their companies, and they're having to do presentations in front of people.
Uh,
So they have to stand in front of a large group of other people, men and women, and they're very preoccupied with how their clothes are fitting to their
mhm.
body, how they look. And from those triggers, the thought patterns that I'm seeing a lot of very much tied into nothing a lot of catastrophizing. So if I'm not a certain size, if I look a certain way, I'm not going to be valued. I'm not going to be seen. I'm not going to be seen as attractive. I'm not going to be seen as muscular, as manly enough
Okay.
for whatever it is that I'm about to be doing, whether it's going into the dating field or for presenting myself as strong enough in front of this large group of people. So,
Got you.
so those have been the main triggers and thought patterns that I've seen in my.
One of the things that just popped in my head is there an aspect? I guess my question was gonna be, is there an aspect of toxic masculinity that can feed into this?
I would say so, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think us as men, I think we're taught from a very young age to look and act a very certain way.
Mhm.
And I think that gets exacerbated by, I think, just our culture
Yeah.
today. Going back to social media, if I'm not looking a certain way or performing a certain way or doing certain tasks, then I'm going to be perceived as weak. And I think that just plays into the whole issue.
Yeah. I agree. And it also sounds like these become this perception of one's body becomes very obsessive, and it actually the body dysmorphic disorder falls in the family of obsessive compulsive disorders.
It,
And so
yep.
this becomes so obsessive, and then the compulsion is to look in the mirror and check and measure and all the things. So yeah, this is a really complicated disorder for sure.
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
so what are some practical tools men can use when they're struggling with distorted body image?
Couple different ones that I've used over the years, used with my clients, used for myself. A big one is just grounding and mindfulness. Exercises like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, naming 5 things, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. And then doing that with a bit of a brief body scan. So if I'm having obsessive thoughts or I'm having negative emotions about my appearance, my body, it's almost like getting into your body a little bit more and understanding it as
Mhm.
opposed to judging it. I've also done things like thought labeling. So instead of necessarily judging the thought, it's more
Mhm.
labeling it as it is. So
Yeah,
instead of saying I'm having a negative thought or I'm having this, I'm having that, it's hey, I'm having a response to what's
that's
going
good.
on in my body. And then so that's more from the cognitive standpoint. Behaviorally, I would say limiting access to social media, limiting time in front of the mirror, setting caps for yourself. So if I'm going to go on to Instagram, I'm going to be looking at maybe some body affirming
Mm.
pages as opposed to I'm going to go look at these bodybuilder pages that I follow. And then also trying to build goals and I would say goals and other thought processes that are not tied into your
Uh,
appearance.
yeah.
So if I'm going to the gym, let's say,
Mhm.
which I encourage everyone to do, I would say make your goals not tied to how you look, not tied to your
Okay.
strength, but more so I'm showing up and that's what's more important than the way that I
Okay.
look.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Good reframe there. Good,
Yeah.
good reframe. Yeah. So that leads us to, yeah, and I think you've already gave us some hints, but how can men approach fitness in the gym in a healthy way when they're dealing with body dysmorphia? So that was some good tips there. Any others?
Yeah. And I think it's extremely important because the gym is one of the best things that we could be doing for our mental health. I've read studies that have said that going to the gym is equal to, if not better than psychotherapy, psychotropic medication. It
Great
just
outlet
does
for it.
it does
Yeah.
so much for us.
Yes.
So obviously when we're dealing with body dysmorphia, going to the gym is it's a tightrope to tread on because
Yeah.
we don't want to overdo it. So I think some other ways of looking at this is focusing on your function and your health in terms
Mhm.
of your work in the gym as opposed to the aesthetic byproducts that come from that. Instead of focusing on how much I'm lifting, I might be focusing more on I'm improving my momentum, I'm improving my flexibility, I'm
Right.
improving my health, I'm improving my balance, I'm improving my
Mhm.
endurance rather than
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going into the gym, I'm picking up 50 pounds and I'm doing shoulder presses, but the guy
Right.
next to me is doing 70 of those. It creates a little bit of a different mindset. And then also I think just making sure that your schedule for the gym is structured and making sure that it's healthy. I feel like our compulsion is to fill our days. I'm going to be going to the gym for 2 hours and I'm going to be focusing on every single muscle group in my
Mm.
body. All that's going to do is it's going to lead to overtraining and
Yeah.
injury. And then all that's going to do is it's going to just exacerbate the thought
Yeah.
feelings that we're having in our brain. Scheduling rest days, make it sustainable, trying out different exercises, having some positive people to go to the gym with, people that aren't going to be judging you for how much you're
That's good.
lifting or how you look. Just a good, healthy group of people that can say, hey, we're going to the gym to get healthy. And
Mhm.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. So what insights or encouragement would you want to leave with men who are struggling with this right now?
I think that it as someone who's been through it before, and like I talked about before, it's something that's an ongoing battle. As with most things, I think when we talk about mental health, it's a daily practice, and I emphasize practice. So the more that you do it, the more you're going to get better at it. So understanding that distorted thinking is treatable. So if you're having thoughts, feelings like this, bring that up in therapy, bring that up with your therapist, talk about it with loved ones, with friends. And then I think just also recognizing and understanding that your value goes beyond your appearance.
Yeah, that's a big
And
one
that's
there.
something that I
Mhm.
think that we've lost a little bit in this culture. And it gets just so ingrained into our thought process that I have to look a certain way in order to be something. And again, a lot of that work can be done in a therapy session or by
Mhm.
talking with healthy people. And then I think the last thing is creating small, consistent steps for yourself, not just in the gym, but also just in your day-to-day life, because you're stuck with your body every single day and you're seeing it every single day. And it's hard to walk around with that trigger just right there in your
Yeah,
face all the time. So I think just by giving yourself a little bit of grace and giving yourself a little bit of space to say, again, what I'm looking at doesn't define who I am. It doesn't
yeah,
define who I am, what I do, where I'm going to be
exactly.
going.
There's more to me than my appearance as well. There's
Exactly,
more to my
exactly,
identity. Yeah.
exactly.
My gosh, Aaron, thank you. Thank you for sharing all your insights on this really important topic that we need more conversations about this.
I
So
agree.
really appreciate you. Would love to have you back on.
Thank you so much. I'll be there.
I'd also like to thank the team behind the podcast, Jason Clayton and Juliana Whitten. Thank you for listening to Converse from the Couch. Take care, everyone.